Destroy my relationship with my girlfriend? I will destroy your life. First, a little backstory. I am a 24-year-old male with OCD and I fall somewhere in the middle of the autism spectrum. Consequently, I had to deal with various challenges and unfortunate experiences during my childhood. Additionally, I struggle with reading body language, which often leads to significant social awkwardness. As a result, I haven't had much success with women since I reached the age of wanting to start dating. I was only in one relationship during my college years, and it ended so poorly that I made the decision to completely avoid dating for several years. However, after completing my education and relocating to a new state for a job opportunity, I decided to give dating another try. I didn't have high expectations for success, but I believed it was worth a shot. Thus, I created an account on an online dating site and, surprisingly, started conversing with a kind young woman who happened to live less than a mile away from my apartment. Let's refer to her as Jessica. We went on a date, and to my astonishment, it went incredibly well. Before long, we began dating regularly, and I found myself developing strong feelings for her. I even started contemplating the possibility that she could be the one. Perhaps my intuition was correct. I harbored no intentions of seeking revenge against her. I know there are numerous stories about people seeking revenge against cheating or manipulative exes, but this story is not about that. Instead, it is a tale of revenge involving my twin sister, Julie. Between the two of us, Julie was accustomed to being seen as the normal one, and from an early age, she took it upon herself to be my protector. She watched out for me during our childhood, even shielding me from bullies. However, as we grew older and I became more independent, I no longer required her constant supervision. While I always appreciated everything she did for me, I began to resent her treating me as if I were eternally a 5-year-old. Matters worsened when Julie entered college. For reasons she still refuses to share with anyone, she experienced a nervous breakdown, nearly failed her courses, and ultimately graduated with a C average. She subsequently landed a job in Texas that paid just above minimum wage, working under a boss she despised. In contrast, I excelled academically, graduating summa cum laude, and securing a comfortable position with the federal government. I never attempted to flaunt my achievements or make her feel inadequate. If anything, I understood and sympathized with some of the challenges she was facing. However, Julie started behaving as though my accomplishments were an assault on the natural order of things. Throughout our upbringing, I had always been the one who struggled, while she was the one who succeeded. This dynamic had persisted for over 2 decades, but now that the tables had turned, she couldn't bear it. I never viewed us as competitors, but she did, and my dear sister always loathed losing. However, there was one area where Julie had me beat, and that was in the realm of romance. She met and married her husband several years ago, and while I was genuinely happy for them, Julie started to use it as a weapon to taunt me whenever I returned home on vacation to visit our parents and relatives. Her constant jabs about my perpetual singleness deeply wounded me, and when I mustered the courage to confront her and request that she stop, she simply laughed it off and dismissed my feelings. Her behavior became increasingly passive-aggressive and malicious, especially when she thought she could get away with it. Consequently, we gradually lost touch with each other. In retrospect, that was my mistake. If only I had made more effort to maintain communication with her, I might have realized the extent to which her envy and spite had poisoned her. This continued until I met my girlfriend, and by the time I invited her to visit my family for the holidays, I was convinced that Jessica and I had something truly special. The anticipation of introducing her to my parents and grandmother filled me with excitement, making it difficult for me to stay still during the flight home. Upon landing and arriving at the house, everyone warmly welcomed her. I was certain that this would be the best Christmas of my life. Julie, however, was determined to turn it into the worst Christmas ever. As I mentioned earlier, it appeared that she viewed love as just another competition, one in which she could smugly claim victory over me until now. Consequently, she saw Jessica as a threat to the remnants of our old sibling hierarchy, which meant she had to be eliminated. Initially, my Christmas vacation felt like a dream come true. Everyone adored Jessica, and we were having an incredible time together. We engaged in snowball fights, went Christmas shopping, and indulged in the complete festive experience. Even Julie seemed to be treating me with more kindness. I genuinely believed I was on top of the world. But then, everything came crashing down. You see, I have a personal laptop that I use for gaming and other activities, and Jessica shared the same interest in gaming. Naturally, I brought my laptop along for the Christmas trip. I received some new games as a gift from my grandmother, so on the day after Christmas, Jessica and I stayed up late playing together. Eventually, she grew tired and decided to go to bed, but I wanted to continue playing for a little longer. Unfortunately, that decision proved to be a mistake. Exhausted, I eventually fell asleep at around 2 a.m., forgetting to shut down my computer. Jessica was still asleep when I woke up, so I headed downstairs to have a late breakfast. Julie was already at the table, but she didn't say much until my girlfriend finally got out of bed about an hour later. Once she had eaten, Jessica asked if she could borrow my laptop to play for a while, and I happily agreed. My laptop was resting on a folding card table in the living room, so I could hear her moving over to sit down. However, almost immediately after she sat down, Jessica let out a string of expletives and stood up so abruptly that she nearly toppled the chair. I asked her what was wrong, but she remained silent. Instead, she stormed over to me, raised her hand, and slapped me across the face, tears streaming down her cheeks. I was completely taken aback and rendered speechless. While I tried to comprehend the situation, Jessica began packing her belongings. I pleaded with her, desperately asking what had happened, but she refused to say a word. In an attempt to unravel the mystery, I approached my laptop and discovered that all the tabs in my internet browser had been replaced with explicit content and adult dating websites. My stomach sank, and I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. Growing up in a conservative household, I was raised with strict principles, and Jessica and I had both agreed to remain abstinent until marriage, if we reached that point. There was no way I would betray her trust by engaging with such material. However, based on what appeared on the screen, one would assume I was a secret addict. That's when the realization hit me: Julie must have sneaked onto my laptop after I had gone to bed and orchestrated this malicious act. I even thought I caught a glimpse of a smug grin forming on her face, but she quickly concealed it when she noticed my gaze. I was utterly devastated and desperate to explain the truth to Jessica, but she refused to listen. She immediately ended our relationship, purchased a ticket for the next available flight out of town, and sought refuge in a hotel. Despite my attempts to reach out via calls and texts, she promptly blocked me. My relationship lay in ruins, and if my parents and grandmother had witnessed what Julie had done, I might have risked losing them as well. Fortunately, my parents had hastily departed that morning for errands in town, and my grandmother still slumbered peacefully. I knew precisely what Julie had orchestrated, and she knew that I was aware. Both of us also understood that I would never be able to provide concrete evidence. I felt heartbroken, shattered, and profoundly betrayed. Standing amidst the smoldering ruins of my romance with Jessica, I made a solemn vow to myself: I would make my sister suffer for her actions. However, Julie was no fool. She would anticipate retaliation. Therefore, as challenging as it was, I forced myself to do nothing. I assumed the role of a defeated, wretched young man consumed by heartache, masking my true intentions. Simultaneously, I began to observe Julie when she least expected it, seeking opportunities to be nearby when she accessed her computer and cell phone. Since my vacation was nearing its end, I could only glean fragments of her passwords and passcodes, managing to grasp only a couple of letters or numbers. It was a modest beginning. I knew that over time, Julie would become complacent, lowering her guard. When that moment arrived, I would be prepared. Over the course of the next year and a half, during each visit home to my family, I dedicated myself to the task of uncovering more fragments of Julie's computer and cell phone passwords and passcodes. Julie never appeared to change them, and I remained vigilant in keeping the events with Jessica entirely to myself. Gradually, piece by piece, I assembled her login information, slowly accumulating the necessary letters and numbers. It wasn't until just one day before my recent departure from home that I finally possessed everything I needed. Having had ample time since Jessica's departure to contemplate my actions towards Julie, I wasted no time once I gained access to her phone and computer. On that very night, when everyone else was sound asleep, I adorned a pair of gloves and stealthily entered Julie's room, retrieving her phone from the bedside table, Subsequently, I quietly descended the stairs, seated myself at her laptop, and successfully logged into both devices. The indescribable sensation of dark satisfaction engulfed me as I witnessed her entire life unveiled before my eyes. A few exploratory searches on her laptop confirmed my long-standing suspicion. Julie relied on the computer to cache all her passwords since she had difficulty remembering them, particularly after her nervous breakdown. Every aspect of her digital life, from her Amazon account to her computer games and email, had the Remember Password option enabled. With a sense of contentment, I embarked on a mission to obliterate it all. I left no stone unturned, implementing a scorched earth approach, reducing everything on her phone and laptop to ashes and metaphorically salting the digital soil in my wake. Her iTunes account? Obliterated. Her Amazon account, along with its extensive collection of Kindle books? Eradicated. Her Steam and Origin accounts, housing her vast libraries of computer games? Vanquished. Then I turned my attention to her social media presence. Knowing that Julie was active on Tumblr and had few real-life friends, I took it upon myself to send a series of hateful and repugnant messages to all her online acquaintances. Additionally, I inundated her page with offensive and racist content, effectively ensuring her permanent ostracization within her digital social circle. I proceeded to delete all of her written work in Microsoft Word, including her short stories and fanfiction, taking care to clear the recycle bin to prevent any possible recovery. Utilizing her work email, I composed a scathing letter addressed to Julie's boss, expressing Julie's thoughts in the most vitriolic and colorful language I could conjure. I meticulously covered my tracks, erasing any traces of having sent the message, and then blocked the boss's email and phone number from Julie's devices. A nasty surprise awaited her upon her return to work. Finally, I changed the passcodes used to unlock her phone and laptop, adding insult to injury. By the time she managed to reset them, it would be far too late. The only aspect I refrained from interfering with was her bank account, not that it held a substantial sum. Taking a moment to assess my handiwork, I nodded in satisfaction before quietly retracing my steps back upstairs. After returning Julie's phone to its original position, I crawled into bed and slumbered soundly, akin to an innocent baby. My flight departed early the following morning, and although I wasn't present to witness the aftermath firsthand, I later heard the glorious accounts. Julie, seeking assistance, visited both Best Buy and the Apple Store with her malfunctioning devices, only to face nearly another nervous breakdown upon discovering the extent of my actions. Her boss promptly terminated her employment upon her return to work, and it seems she made certain that my sister would struggle to secure future employment. Julie's former friends on Tumblr blocked her and spread the word of her alleged awfulness among their acquaintances. When she logged back in, she found herself shunned and isolated within the online community. Consequently, she had no choice but to move in with her husband, becoming entirely dependent on him. The impact on her pride and what remained of her self-esteem was devastating, particularly for someone who had prided herself on strength and independence. A once gainfully employed woman, she now assumed the role of an unemployed homemaker. This outcome was a severe blow to her sense of self. A few days after my departure, she called me, unleashing a torrent of screams and accusations, but I maintained silence and promptly blocked her. Though she is aware of my involvement, I skillfully obscured any evidence, leaving her unable to disclose the truth to our parents or create a public spectacle, which would expose her own flaws. I harbor no remorse for my actions and sleep soundly, knowing that I have exacted the retribution she deserved for her transgressions against me and Jessica. If anything, I believe she has not yet suffered enough, and I eagerly anticipate any future opportunity to further her torment. She will shed an ocean of tears before my mission is accomplished, and I will revel in her despair. TLDR, my twin sister, out of jealousy, sabotaged my relationship with my girlfriend by framing me for inappropriate online activities. In retaliation, I got her fired, destroyed her online presence, and wiped out her digital libraries. She has no recourse. Additionally, it should be noted that Julie has gained weight since losing her job. Edit. Some may wonder why I didn't use my sister's phone to contact Jessica and explain everything. Initially, I considered that option, but upon reflection, I realized that even if Jessica and I wanted to reconcile, it would be impossible. During the time of crisis, she didn't believe or support me, and I can't rely on her if similar situations arise in the future. Furthermore, my actions weren't driven by a desire to reunite with Jessica. Our relationship is irreparable. My sole intent was to restore balance and make my sister suffer. To clarify, I hold no anger towards Jessica as I do towards my sister. However, too much time has passed and too many obstacles stand in the way for us to reconcile. That ship has sailed. It's time for comments. Comment from Seralt: why wasn't your sister living with her husband before, especially when she needed to move in with him due to unemployment? Ops response: they weren't living together all the time since they got married. She was working in Texas, and her husband had a government job in Florida. They would often visit each other, but they weren't living together every day. However, after she lost her job, she had to move in with him. Second comment from RP the US writer: wow, one look at your computer and Jessie went home crying like a baby? Did she even try to understand what was really going on with you? Also, your sister is clearly a mean narcissist with no sympathy and compassion. Ops response: I think the reason Jessica reacted the way she did is because, in a way, she probably felt as though I had betrayed her. It may have seemed like I was seeking something contrary to what we had agreed to postpone. You're right about Julie, she indeed lacks sympathy and compassion. Follow-up comment from RP the US writer: even so, that's no reason to run out on you. I know porn is looked at as the worst thing people could ever do, but as surprising as this may sound, I wish that was true because there are far worse things out there. I know that. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video as much as I enjoyed creating it. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more r/ProRevenge. And remember, if you have any suggestions for future videos or any questions you'd like me to answer, leave them in the comments section below. I love hearing from you.